Tell us what you're up to. You're working out yourself today. We're gonna do a little outside workout. What are we up to?
Yeah, so we're doing a little bit of a total body workout, emphasizing on core stability and core strength. We're not trying to build muscle necessarily. We're just trying to stabilize our core, stabilize our muscles, trying to strengthen that a little bit. So we usually do start with a little bit of a dynamic warm up to get our heart rate going, as well as loosen up our joints. And then from there on, we get into some, core stability type of exercises that we are going to be focused on for today. Kind of like glute bridges, planks, Pallof presses, things like that to kind of like stabilize the core and have it be as strong as possible. Because again, your core is trying to stabilize your spine. So you want to make sure that it's strong enough so that it's able to support the spine. And then after our total body workout, we just do like a little bit of a cool down, which involves a little bit of jogging, a little bit of walking, and then if you have to, you stretch and you foam roll after your workout. So this is normally something that I would do like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, kind of like more mobility, core. Sometimes I'll do like speed training as well. Today we didn't really do much of speed training, but Tuesdays and Thursdays, so like twice a week, I like to come to the field, whether it's hot or not. I just like to get my work in, no more than an hour. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I go to the gym. So like Monday and Wednesday would be like a push-pull type of day, just like upper body. And then Friday will be like legs. lunges first. So I'm gonna do a forward lunge, into a lateral lunge, into a reverse lunge. So I'm gonna do 4 reps. So like forward, lateral, reverse is 1. I'm gonna do 4 per leg. So you feel it on your quads mostly when you extend back up and you're using your hamstrings and glutes to kind of decelerate and go back down. You want all your weight to be supported by the hip and not by the knee. That's why we're not like lunging forward. We're going straight down into our hips. So for the side planks, when you're in that side plank position here, you don't want to drop your hips. You're trying to stabilize your core and keep your spine as neutral as possible to stop it from falling down. So you got to really activate the core muscles to be able to support the spine and all that. Single leg RDL movements with a weight. I'm gonna do this on my shoes off. So for some exercises, you can have your shoes on. Some exercises I prefer to have them off so that you could grip the ground a little bit better. Because with most running shoes, they have a little bit of cushion, so it's hard on the front part of your shoe to kind of push that toe into the ground. So we're gonna go 4 single leg RDLs on each side. And we're gonna add a little bit of a row to kind of stabilize, bring our knee back up. Make sure that the leg that we're standing on isn't blocked. We wanna have a little bit of a knee bend. Stick your hips all the way back. Make sure you don't flex your spine. And then continue. So again, this weight is trying to rotate you. Down here, this weight is trying to rotate you this way. So you got to make sure that you stabilize the core and not let that rotation happen. All right, so normally for the pressing, you can have a dumbbell. You can wrap a band around your back and just do a band-aid press. You can have a kettlebell. You can either hold the kettlebell by the handle. If that's too difficult, I prefer to just hold it like this. So what you're gonna do from here is you're gonna get into your glute bridge. For beginners, you're gonna just have 2 feet on the floor and you're just gonna press that weight or that resistance band straight up. Okay, so you're gonna do, let's say 6 on one side, 6 to 8 on one side, and then you're gonna switch. You can come back down as you switch, come back up, hips stay up the whole time. You're trying to stabilize your spine, and you're just gonna press. As you're doing this, you're pressing into the ground with your feet. Okay, so now we're gonna get into a single leg glute bridge, similar concept. You're gonna raise your hips, one leg is gonna come up, and as you hold that position, you're gonna press. This is for more advanced. Really feel that in my hamstrings. So just a switch legs. And if you want to put your other hand on your hip, you can a little bit for beginners. And for the single leg ones, you don't want to do a lot of reps if you're a beginner, because your hamstrings and your glutes will tire out very quickly. So keep it low between 4 to 6 reps. So when you're doing plyometric work, which is a little bit more intense, you do want to have shoes on. That's a lot of force being absorbed and put back up. So it's preferable to do it with shoes. So now we're gonna get into some intensive plyometric work. Intensive just means that you're trying to jump with high intent as opposed to just quick. We're gonna be doing some squat jumps with our focus being on the landing and how high we can jump. So, couple tips on the landing. When you go up for your squat jump or any type of jump, when you land, you want to load your hips back as you land, as opposed to transferring that force onto your knees. Okay, so number 1, when you land, transfer that load into your hips because your hips can support it, your knees cannot. Number 2, when you land, you don't want your knees to kind of like buckle, okay? So what I want you to focus on when you're landing and your hips are going back, stabilize those knees so that they're not buckling. So try to keep them as straight as possible. 4 to 6 total squat jumps, because again, we're going with high intensity. So when we're doing high intense plyometrics, we want to keep the rep low. You can do a lot of sets, but you want to keep the reps low. So for the next squat jump, we're here, we're gonna produce force, we're gonna rotate, and as we land here, we do like a 90-degree turn. And same thing, when you land, load the hips back, make sure your knees are not caving in. The reason we wanna do, I call these like transfers, hops, and jumps, is because athletes are moving in all planes of motion. So you can take a basketball player that just caught the ball and they dribble and they have to jump and shoot, okay? So we gotta be able to teach them and train them in all planes of motion. So again, we're trying to keep the rep count low with high intensity. One more. Break. We're going a little bit of hip flexion strength. So from here, you're gonna wrap around a band around your feet, kind of like on your midfoot. From here, you're gonna stand on one foot. You're gonna bring your other foot up. As you do this, the foot that's on the ground has like a little tripod stance. So the front part of your foot is on the ground, the heel is on the ground. The foot that's elevated you're working your hip flexion, and you want to make sure that you're keeping that foot straight and not pointed down. So from here, you're going to hold about 10 seconds, come back down, then you work the other leg. If you want to advance it from here, again, when you're doing this, you don't want your knee to start like coming in. So you want to really stabilize your muscles so that you can go straight up. So from here, you would just go up, 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 up. And then for speed, you just do that as quick as you can. So again, you don't want to crunch when you do this. You just want to bring your hips up. So this is staying nice and tall. Here, nice and tall. You don't want to like crunch when you do this. So the fast, you just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to do some lateral band walks. The band, you can put it either around your thighs, you can put it right over your knees, you could put it around your ankles, you could put it around your feet. Typically, the hardest one is around your feet, and it produces the most glute med activation. So from here, you can either have your whole foot on the ground, or you can come up on your tippy toes and do it. That's up to you. From here, you're gonna load your hips back, and you're gonna take slow steps. As you're taking steps, you're pushing with this leg if you're going this way. So you're not starting with this leg and going this way. You're pushing off this leg as you go this way. Push, land, push, land, push, land. And then as we go the other way, now we switch feet. So now we're pushing with this foot to go this way. Push, land, and so on. All right, so we're gonna get into some ice skaters with a little bit of a weight. The reason you want the weight, if you're an athlete, if you're playing basketball, you know, you're doing like a side step and then shooting, stuff like that. If you're a football player, you know, you gotta be able to absorb the force by other players. So they push you and you gotta be able to absorb that force. So we wanna add a little bit of weight for our athletes. But again, if you're just a beginner, you're doing this without weight, perfect your form first, and then you can add resistance. So, a couple things to look out for when you're doing ice skaters. You're basically gonna be jumping from one leg to the other. What you don't want to happen is as you land, your center of mass is like falling this way. You wanna keep your center of mass in line with your hip, knee, toe, so that it's straight here as opposed to falling over on this side. Another thing to keep in mind, make sure your toes are pointing straight. So load the hips, hamstrings, and glutes. Jump, land, jump, land. Good. For the ice skaters, you have choices. If you want to do more intense, you can focus on jumping laterally as far as you can. If you want to do more extensive, which means more quickness and getting faster and all that, you can do shorter jumps, just do it quicker. We're gonna get into some like anti-rotation stuff of movements for the core. For beginners, you can just stand with 2 feet here in an athletic position. This resistant band is trying to pull me this way. You're trying to not let that happen. So for beginners, you just wanna hold it out right next to your chest. If this is too easy, you want to hold it out in front, okay? For me, because I've been doing this for a while, I like to add a little bit of weight onto the band so it gives it a little bit of like jolt. So you really have to stabilize your core in order to not let that from not only falling down, but pulling you back. So basically I just put this here, I hold it out in front, and I just do like pressing movements, and this thing just keeps going, jolting back and forth. This really wants to pull me this way, pull me down. I have to really stabilize my core to not let that from happening. So I like to do between 10 and 12 reps of this. And then at the end, just hold it close to you. Kind of like let the kettlebell stop jolting a little bit. And then you just grab it, put it down, and then you work the other side. So again, load the hips, keep the core stable, 10 total. and just wait for that to stop. This is a weighted vest, kind of for resistance. There's certain exercises that I find a little bit more, not just challenging, but a little bit easier than carrying around weight with you. So like, let's say this is 10-pound with a vest. We could go up to 40-pound vest. Instead of holding two 20-pound dumbbells and doing lunges, you can just put the vest on and kind of get the same effect. So right here, you want to make sure that your spine isn't falling and isn't rounding. Keep it as stable as you can. From here, you're going to lift one leg up in the air, hold for about 10 seconds. After 10 seconds, you're going to do the other leg. If you're strong enough, you're going to put an arm out, hold for 10 seconds. Again, one thing to keep in mind when you're doing any of the single leg, single arm type of stuff is it's trying to rotate you. So when you're in this arm up position, you're kind of like falling. So you got to stabilize yourself so that you do not fall. Very, very hard to do. It is not as easy as I just made it look. With the kettlebell, we're gonna do some pull throughs. You're gonna be in that plank position and you're gonna be pulling through the kettlebell from one side to the other. As you're doing this, you don't wanna be like swaying your body from side to side. I'll show you exactly what that means. So if you're here in a plank position, you don't wanna be swaying your body like this and then like this. You wanna try to keep it as straight as possible. Even if you can, you widen your feet and you just pull through to one side, pull through to the other side, pull through to the other side. All while trying to keep your spine and your body as straight as possible. We're gonna do some like weight shifts with the resistant band. So we're gonna hold it out here like a Pallof press, but now from here, we're gonna get into some lateral lunges one way and just back up. Lateral lunge, back up. Again, you're not letting this rotate you. You wanna keep it as centered as possible. Think of a basketball player. This is the basketball right here. You gotta rip through, rip through, rip through. So I want you to think of it like a basketball player. After you're done doing one side, you'll turn around and do the other leg. When you're doing your lateral lunges, you wanna make sure that the foot that's straight stays planted on the ground, so you don't want it to like cave in like this. You wanna either keep it straight planted on the ground, or if you have to, rotate the foot where the heel is up. All right, so we started off with a dynamic warm-up to get our joints loosened up, to get our heart rate going. And then we got into some like total body workouts, some core workouts that we can, get our heart rate going, as well as activate some muscle, build up your core, stuff like that. And then lastly, what I like to do is a little bit of cardio. So I'm not trying to go really, really intense with the cardio at the end of the class. You just want to do between about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on what your goals are, what your time is. About 5 minutes of just like running and kind of like cooling down. So again, you don't want to go as fast as you can. You want to keep it to like a light jog, kind of get your heart rate down naturally. And then after you do a little bit of jogging, then you can just walk around, continue to get that heart rate down. So then after you're done with your little cool down of like cardio, a little bit of jogging, a little bit of walking, then you could get into some like stretching, some foam rolling type of movements if you want to do that. So if you're someone that's, trying to get into team sports, or you are an athlete, or even a general population, person, and you want to strengthen your core, you want to be able to, at least sit more upright. When you do your squats, you want to make sure that your spine is neutral. When you do planks, You want to be able to sustain it for a long period of time. So our core is what stabilizes our spine. So we got to make sure that we strengthen that. And then on top of that, you know, we got to make sure that our hips are mobile and strong. We got to make sure that our hamstrings are strong, things like that. Our ankles are strong. So, you know, if you're someone that's looking to strengthen your core, you know, compete in athletics, you know, things like that, this is for you, because your core is kind of like what drives everything. If you have a weak core, you're not going to be able to do things that the, you know, normal athlete or normal person can do.